Hello everyone, it's wonderful to be here, and as you can see I'm one of the group that has plenty of vitamin D and no folic acid. Just before I go into this, a couple of people said to me, why have you got yourself involved? And I just want to say to you that something that Marissa said really resonated with me. I've always said if I wrote my biography I'd call it Always an Alien. I was brought up in Zimbabwe, where I didn't really fit in terms of skin colour for the majority. I moved to Scotland, where I did fit for my skin colour, but not for my culture. And then I married a Kiwi and I came here. And in between that, I spent a year in America. So I was always a little different. And when I came here, I applied to every recruitment company in Wellington and Auckland, and I didn't get one interview. And I was working for one of the top search firms in London, so I set up my own firm. So I know what it feels like to actually not be recognised for the skills you have, because people don't see it. Now, it's not quite, I think, what May said. I'm just going to explain to you about how we recruit as headhunters, and the challenge that we have, and the challenge that you'll have in terms of being found. And that's why New Zealand Asian Leaders and being part of New Zealand Asian Leaders is so important. When we're trying to find talent, we look at networks. And as a headhunter, we need to know. So I've just picked up some of them, and obviously New Zealand Asian Leaders is going to be a vital one for when people say to me, well, where is the talent? And immediately, if you get involved in New Zealand Asian Leaders, you get yourself known, and you work through your networks, that's actually how we find you. But then, I'm just going to bring you into a model that we use, which will probably explain why sometimes you might find yourself overlooked or you find it hard to be recognised. And this is a simple model that my business partner and I drew up when I had a company called Bell & Core, and we called them the B&B Leadership Triangles. So when we're looking for talent, we actually say, you've got to be smart. That's an IQ at the bottom. It looks like a 10. You've got to have experience, and you've got to have emotional intelligence. And so when we're looking at it, the IQ, we do know that if you come from an Asian ethnicity, you're likely to be jolly smart if you've got a degree. But we look for sort of analytical, conceptual, creative, sometimes practical, looking at the different types of thinking. That's easy. The emotional intelligence is a chap called Daniel Goleman. And he has 4 points. We've made them into a triangle to fit our model. Self-awareness and self-management, relationship building and social awareness. Now, the bits that are really tricky when you come into a new environment is the social awareness. How do you fit? How do you behave? What do you do? For the people who are born and bred in New Zealand, it's a lot easier because you've been educated here and you've picked up all the pieces. And when I haven't seen Baden and Key here, but Sahel is another one of my appointments. There's no question. I don't think people really see the difference when you've been here a long time, but you need to feel it and feel how people are reacting to you. And the self-management and self-awareness is the same. You know, different cultures do things differently. And the reason that New Zealand businesses need Asian people is because you are different, but to get past that initial interview or recognition, people have to sort of see some similarity or some comfort zone. And you need to be aware of that because they probably won't be. And so it's about one person reaching out that little bit further. I think of Michelangelo's great painting of God reaching for Adam and Adam's finger being a bit floppy. Well, probably the bulk of New Zealanders have sort of got a bit of a floppy finger out, and you've got to stretch a little bit further to reach them. So that is a critical one. And then the experience. I did draw these slides, but they've gone very odd. Then the experience is one where if you're not from New Zealand, you really need to work very hard, I've just got 3 question marks, at pointing out how your business fits in terms of scale, size, service offering, market. So I sailed here saying, yay, I've worked for one of the top search firms in London. No one had heard of it here. Nobody knew what executive search was properly. Nobody cared. You know, I didn't make enough of a point of selling it. So when I look at these triangles, particularly when we, sorry, I've gone on to that one, is, you know, your university known in New Zealand, undergraduate, postgraduate, what sort of degree is it? Make sure that that is known. I've talked about those, sorry, we've talked about the bias. And then you've really got to point out to people, particularly your industry, the number of staff you've managed, how senior you've been. And so what I'm wanting to offer to New Zealand Asian leaders is a way of actually being a bit of a conduit to you, but I'm going to need to know this information as much as you're going to need to actually try and communicate that. Because it is a case of trying to find out, well, where are the commonalities? Where's the understanding? How do we actually make sure that we find you and we can put you in the right place and that we really understand what it is that you've done? That is, as I say, more relevant to people who are new immigrants here, and according to the professor who spoke to us, there's going to be an awful lot more. So I might be preaching to the converted here, but anyone else who's coming, I think it's really important that we actually wrap around the whole side of the intellect. Where have you been to university? Where have you got to? The emotional intelligence, how are you going to actually bridge that gap and help people bridge that gap between your culture and theirs? And then the experience, paint it very clearly what your experience is, because a lot of the time people just won't understand what it is. So that's me, and I hope less than 6 minutes.
That's great.